Hello and welcome to another video by Training Made Clear. This is part of a series on the imperial and the metric system, and today we are going to be doing lesson number 3, which is about volume. We are living with two different systems in the world, the metric system and the imperial system. And these two systems affect us in our lives virtually every day. So today we'll do the highlighted lesson number 3, volume. A simple definition for volume is that volume is the measure of the space inside a container or inside an object. You can see a lot of different objects in front of you there, boxes, pyramids, bottles. Each one of these shapes has got a certain volume. And to calculate that volume, each one of these shapes has a special formula. So if we have a look at an example of volume, a bottle which can hold 500 milliliters of water, that will be its volume. A box measuring 2 meters by 1 meter by half a meter has a volume of 1 cubic meter. So what is the formula for calculating volume? Well, as I said, there isn't just one formula for volume. Different shapes have different formulas. So here are the main ones. We have a rectangular prism or a box, a cube, a cylinder, a sphere, a cone, triangular prism, and a pyramid. And in each one of these, in yellow, I've highlighted the formula for each one of those shapes. But the most common one would probably be number 1. The rectangular prism box shape, and that formula basically is volume is equal to the length times the width times the height, and that is a simple rule, and it also works for all prisms and cylinders. The units of volume for the metric system are milliliters, liters, cubic meters. For the imperial system, you have fluid ounces, pints, quarts, gallons, cups, and teaspoons. Here are some tables which show the metric system versus the imperial system, the volume units that are being compared with one another. I won't go through the whole table, but you can basically see there on the metric system, the top table, you have the symbol is milliliters, the symbol is centiliters, it's CL, for liters it's L, for cubic centimeter it's CM3, and cubic meter is M cubed. And the equivalent in metric would be 1 milliliter is equal to 0.001 liter, and so on for the rest. The approximate imperial equivalent is shown on the very right hand side. If you compared imperial volume units to metric, would be this table at the bottom. So if you look at a fluid ounce in imperial, there isn't something for that, but the metric equivalent would be 28.41 milliliters. For a gill, and we'll discuss all of these words at a later stage. For a gill, 5 fluid ounces is equal to 142 milliliters. For a pint, 20 fluid ounces is 568 milliliters. And then you have a quart, which is 2 pints, and a gallon, which is 4 quarts, which is 8 pints. So some of these figures are very hard to remember, but it will pay you well to learn basically some of them, like what is a pint, what is a quart, and what is a gallon. How many liters would that be roughly? I remember, for instance, a gallon was 4 quarts or 8 pints, which was 4.5 liters. When I was young, I had a motorbike, and it took exactly 1 gallon of petrol. And when we came over to metric, then I saw it was 4.5 liters. So let's see, where did these words come from? Like the ounce, the gill, the pint, the quart, the gallon. Where did they originate from? So all of them come from very old European measurement systems, and they've evolved over hundreds of years. Let's look at the ounce. The origin came from ancient Rome. The word ounce comes from the Latin word unxia, which sounds a little bit like ounce, meaning 1/12. In the Roman times, an uncia was 1/12 of a Roman pound for weight, 1/12 of a Roman secretaris for volume. How it evolved, medieval England adopted Roman measurement ideas and adjusted them over time. The fluid ounce became 1/20th of a pint in the British imperial system after 1824. The gill. The origin was from the medieval Britain, Middle Ages. The word gill, pronounced Gill, comes from the Old French gilli, meaning a measure of serving liquid. It was created to divide the pint into smaller practical drinking amounts. So in the imperial system, 1 gill would be 5 fluid ounces. It was commonly used in a sale of beer, whiskey, and other spirits. You might actually think that today a gill is called a tot. So you have a tot of whiskey, probably it's 5 fluid ounces. The pint. Origin was Old French, continental Europe. The word pint comes from the Old French pinta, meaning a painted or marked vessel. It came to England after the Norman conquest, 1066. Originally, a pint simply meant a marked container used for selling ale and milk. Standardization, Britain added the pint into its national system in the imperial system in 1824. 1 pint equals 20 fluid ounces or 568 milliliters. When I was young, we used to have milk delivered to our houses, and you had these certain size bottles. You had the smallish one, and then you had a bigger one. If you got the small one, that would be a pint of milk, and if you got the bigger one, it would be a quart of milk, which was 2 pints. So if you look at the quart, the origin came from the Roman, medieval Europe, comes from the Latin quartus, meaning 1/4. In the medieval, a quart was defined as a quarter of a gallon. When the British imperial system was created, 1 quart equals 2 pints, which is equal to 40 fluid ounces. That is a good one to remember if you want to remember volume. A gallon, the originated from medieval England, 13th century. The word gallon comes from the Old North French gallon, meaning a large liquid container. England used several types of gallons before 1824. A wine gallon, an ale gallon, a corn gallon, each had slightly different sizes. Standardization happened in 1824, where Britain created the imperial gallon, defined the volume of 10 pounds of water at specific temperature to be equal to 1 imperial gallon. That was kind of clever. It kind of looked like they were on their way to becoming decimal right there and then. So let's look at a summary of the previous slide. We looked at the ounce, the gill, the pint, the quart, and the gallon, and basically where they came from and the meaning. This is just a summary of what we did before. And a summary of the slide to come. We're going to be looking at different things like cups, teaspoons, spoons in general, and so forth. So more imperial measures for volume are cups, teaspoons, tablespoons, etc. All volumetric volume measurements, and their origins are surprisingly old. Here's a clear, accurate explanation of where they come from and how they became standardized. 1 cup. The origin, everyday household cups. In ancient, medieval, modern, the cup began as an actual drinking cup. It was not a precise unit. Ancient Greeks, Romans, and medieval households all used cups for measuring ingredients. Because everyone's cup was a different size, baking recipes were very inconsistent. Standardization came in the late 1800s. American cookbooks began publishing for a fixed cup size. 1896, Fanny Farmer, a famous American cooking teacher, officially standardized the cup as 1 cup equals 8 fluid ounces, and 1 cup is equal to 240 milliliters. This became the basis of modern US cooking measurements. Note, the UK rarely uses a cup. They prefer grams, milliliters, or ounces. If you think about people doing cooking, they use things like cups, teaspoons, tablespoons, and you can get these little sets of small spoons, all specifically sized for basically recipes. If it wasn't for this, recipes would be a catastrophe because they would never work out. So the actual teaspoon, the origin was actual spoons were used for tea in the 16 and 1700s. In the 17th century, tea was expensive, and small spoons were used to portion it. Different households had different size spoons, so early recipes were very inaccurate. Standardization by the 19th century, British and American cookbooks authors tried to standardize it. The US eventually fixed it as 1 teaspoon is equal to 1/6 of a US fluid ounce, which is 4.93 milliliters. In modern cooking, 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 milliliters. That's rounded off. Tablespoon, the origin was dining spoons were used at a table. A tablespoon was originally simply the large spoon used for eating or serving. Like teaspoon sizes varied widely, standardization in American measurement, 1 tablespoon equaled 3 teaspoons, which equaled 15 milliliters. In older British usage before metrication, it was sometimes 1 tablespoon equals 17.7 milliliters or even 20 milliliters, depending on the region. Today, most countries used 15 milliliters. Australia uses 20 milliliters as a tablespoon, a unique variation. Other spoon measurements, historical, before modern standardization, spoons were everyday utensils. Then they were called dram and dessert spoon. A dram, a small apothecary unit used for medicine. Dessert spoon, halfway between the teaspoon and the tablespoon, now very rarely used. These demonstrate that early measurements came from 1, what people had in their homes, 2, apothecary, medical measurements, and 3, food preparation traditions. Some conversions which will be specifically handy when you want to scale down a recipe. So you have a recipe that calls for 3/4 of a cup of butter and you want to scale it down. How do you do that? Simple. 3/4 of a cup is equal to 12 tablespoons. So half of it would be 6 tablespoons. American recipes call for butter measurements in sticks. We don't get butter sticks here, but no problem. You will find the butter measurements below. Ever wondered what a dash really means? It means 2 or 3 drops of liquid and less than 1/8 of a teaspoon dry. My stepdaughter once was making something and I wanted to make it the next day, and I said to her, "How much vinegar do I have to add to this water?" And she said, 2 glugs. And I said, "What is a glug?" And she just sort of took the bottle out of my hand and gave it a quick pour and pulled it back. She says, "That's 1 glug." And did it again, that's 2 glugs. So everybody has their own measurements for different things. But take a look at these tables and have a good look at some of these things and memorize as many of them as what you possibly can. Like a 1/4 teaspoon being 1 milliliter, or a 1/4 of a cup equal 50 milliliters, and so on. 1 cup being 250 milliliters. So that's converting volume to milliliters. What about converting to grams? 1 ounce being 30 grams. Just have a look at like 16 ounces is 500 grams, which is half a kilogram. And that's 1 pound. So if you know that, you can work out quite a lot of other smaller values by just dividing with the right amount. Butter stick measurements, there they all are for you. And you can see what a quarter cup is, a half a stick, which is an eighth of a pound, which is 4 tablespoons, which is 55 grams. So there's such a lot here, and it would take too long to go through every single one of them. So take a snapshot of these tables and keep them handy and study them and learn them. Here's a complete and easy to read chart showing the relationship between cups, tablespoons, teaspoons, and their metric equivalents, including the differences between US, UK, and Australia. Again, have a look at all these different values and keep them handy for your whole house, because you never know when you're going to come across some recipe somewhere and be confronted with these conversions. If only everybody just used the metric scale, it would have made life so much easier. But unfortunately, we are confronted with these two systems on a daily basis. Have a look at this table here. Australia has a unique tablespoon size. 1 teaspoon is 5 milliliters. 1 tablespoon is 20 milliliters. 1 cup, 250 milliliters. There's another table of a combined quick conversion table. I'm not going to go through them all, just look at them and study them. If you look on the right-hand side at the bottom, popular imperial measurements for volume. If you look at this very carefully, there's a needle there, basically a syringe. And that would be basically measured in milliliters. So if I want to measure 30 milliliters, I would pull the plunger up to the number 3 mark, and that would represent 30 milliliters. Now, if you take 30 milliliters and you squirt it into a container, then it will fill up the container by a certain amount. So if you look at there, it says that 30 milliliters is the same as 2 tablespoons, which is the same as 1 ounce. And 1 cup is 8 ounces. So I would need 8 of these little cups of 1 ounce, or 8 times 30 milliliters from the syringe to fill up to that 1 cup measurement. If you look at the right-hand side, we see there it says 8 fluid ounces is a cup. And it takes 2 cups to make a pint. And then it takes 2 pints to make a quart. And it takes 4 quarts to make a gallon. If you have that picture in your head, you can actually calculate a lot of different things regarding volume. Take a look at this drawing on the left-hand side. We have a container which is 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. That gives us 10 cubic centimeters. And if you took this container and you filled it up with water, which is the most common thing on earth, everybody knows what water is. If you filled it up with water, it would take exactly 1 liter of water. And guess what? If you weighed that, it would weigh 1 kilogram. That is what the metric system is. It is one thing just absolutely complements the next thing. There's that thing I was talking about, where we take the 30 milliliters and we say it becomes 1 fluid ounce, and we need 8 ounces to make a cup, and so you go through. So if you look at the very bottom, it says 30 milliliters equals 2 tablespoons, which equals 1 ounce, times 8 will give you 1 cup, times 2 will give you 1 pint, times 2 will give you 1 quart, times 4 will give you 1 gallon. If you can remember this picture in your head, this as a formula will help you tremendously in calculating stuff. Okay, so there I basically said it before. The container, 1,000 cubic centimeters of water equals 1 kilogram, which is 1 liter. I hope this quick lesson on volume is of benefit to you and that you've learned a lot. If you Like this video, like it, subscribe to it, share and comment and follow, and thank you for watching.